Hey pal, welcome back. Guess what? Today I get to tell you about my first week in Austria. Okay, first things first, you should know that I have horrible flight anxiety and I threw up more times than I would care to admit during my layover in Chicago. When my plane finally landed in Vienna, I showed up entirely terrified of the unknown that was to come. I got onto a bus, and as we drove for what felt like ages past industrial buildings, I started to worry that I hadn't done enough research and Vienna might actually be the Cedar Rapids of Europe. I would eventually be proven wrong, but before that could happen, I had to spend my entire day in a sweaty orientation, and at the end of my day, aka 6 p.m., I realized that I didn't have Wi-Fi and I also didn't have cell service yet, so I was definitely going to need to buy a router and activate my Wi-Fi before the office closed for the weekend. I've been awake for 30 hours. And I feel really crappy actually. But it's fine. I've got something to do that starts in 5 minutes. Peace. On the second, I got a much better feel for the city. And yes, I did realize that Vienna wasn't quite the same as Cedar Rapids. Sunday gave me a bit of a culture shock when I realized that stores were indeed not open. This was not just something that people say that just isn't true. And believe me, there was a lot of BS that people would say that just wasn't true. I'm looking at you, Dad. I ate at a cafe for breakfast, a music festival for lunch, and went to sleep for dinner because I was just so jet-lagged. Monday brought another orientation and an IKEA run. I spent more than I had budgeted at IKEA buying household items, but it still ended up costing less than checking another bag on the plane. So when I checked out and I realized how much I'd spent, I got a hot dog for dinner rather than some meatballs. On Tuesday, I found what is still my favorite graffiti in Vienna, and I checked out the American food. It wasn't the best. The next day, I had my very first rude waiter experience, and it had me feeling brave. So brave, in fact, that I was ready for my very first night out in Vienna. We went to the Bermuda Triangle, and I thought it didn't live up to the hype at all, but really, in hindsight, it was still Wednesday. I also unfortunately learned the hard way about how bus schedules work in Vienna. There is a night bus. Thursday, after another orientation, I decided to get lunch with a girl named Kirsten, and she invited me to go to an international grocery store that afternoon with her and her roommate Jazz. It was a bit awkward at first, but afterwards we decided to get some ice cream. This was an incredible decision. While we ate our ice cream, we all started opening up to each other and we realized how similar we all really are. We decided to all go to this really cute bar that ended up being really overpriced, but I did discover this cool album. Friday, I bought some school supplies and downloaded Be Real. And on Saturday, I went up the Cullenberg with Kirsten and Jazz. It was breathtaking. Once we got back down and caught our breath, we decided that there must be some better version of the nightlife in Vienna that we just hadn't quite found yet. And so we got a bar recommendation from a neighbor, and once we were sick of that place, we asked somebody there where else they liked to go, and we went there. We did that a couple of times before we paid cover for a club and stayed long enough to get our money's worth.
How's your guys' nights?
So good,
How
bro.
is it?
I got a candle.
She got a candle. You that fucking candle? No.
Blow it out. Watch.
On the ride home, we encountered the beginnings of the morning crowd, which included a sweet old man named Josef with whom we practice our German. I think about him often. That's everything I know. Thanks for tuning into the broadcast. I hope we can be pals.